Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11, and of course we're playing as Japan, and our Japanese panzers are attacking into here and here. Some of these aren't panzer divisions, obviously. They're tank units. They're about collapsed. They're attacking. We're moving more up from here. Oh, let's check on Australia. Hey, yes, and that was probably the notification that Noodle Sausage was just following me over on Twitter, because I'm having OBS open up and they track that through things. And you shattered wherever you were. Okay. Yes, the Orange Division. Okay, specialized armor. Push deep into there. Cut them off. Cut them off. Oop, and we took out French submarines. Okay, support the attack, but don't leak, because I don't want to be cut too deep. We give them fuel for money. Do we need money? We would give them fuel each day in exchange for money. Well, I don't need money. And I got plenty of fuel, yeah, but I don't want to help my Soviet enemies out. If it was giving me oil or giving me steel or something, I might do that. But why don't we take a look at the current state of European Soviet fronts? Germans have finally pushed down a little bit more effectively into here. Okay. Soviets have done multiple invasions into Greece. We finally see the AI doing some sort of invasions that are sort of effective. The Allies did do a push all the way up into here, and the Germans have effectively pushed them back to here, which is good. And it looks like they may be pushing them across the Straits of Messina eventually. That's quite remarkable. I don't know if that means that delays the June normal invasions up here, scripted. I don't know the conditions on that. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to delay it by taking North Africa. And of course, the last remnants of forces up here are dying of starvation because they don't have any ports, and the Allies have liberated Norway. And what is that? Okay, no problem, IKB. Hello, Stephen Rosewarne. Crossing the Murray River. Don't worry, none of Spartans really like it either. Okay, cool. Thanks. If you could go, if you want, I could moderate. I mod another channel on YouTube and on Discord, just so you can't be on Twitch all day Saturdays because of. Okay, no problem. I'll add you as a moderator. I could use a few more, JP, because particularly. Hearts of Iron 3 does not take well for me to click off and do some moderation. So I will see about adding you as a moderator here. It separates two states and there's some rivalry. Cool. It's cool, Stephen. There's a lot about Australia I do not know. I like Australia, and Australians just fine. I will tease you for standing on your heads and being on the wrong side of the world, but you just get to suffer with that, whether you take it in good humor or not. Some stereotypical humor is a good thing, I do believe. Okay, come on. Okay, now take back these territories. This one's just a big empty. Okay, take out the partisans. Good. Division shattered. We're having a lot of division. Oh, this was these guys here. Okay. Oh, what are you doing? No, you can stop here. You come down here. You're just light armor, but maybe you can deal with the desert rats well enough. Okay, good. Finally taking out those partisans. Good to know. Good to know you have a good sense of humor. This modern age, they don't. It just humor and other things seem to be, you know, people overly concerned about it all. Okay, these guys are being driven back. What are they being attacked with? Oh, pretty good hammers. So we'll fall back to here. Maybe getting the Saudis was a mistake. I'm hoping for more Saudi forces coming this way, and some more. No, getting Atu, and when we went in there, I don't know if you remember, if you watched it, but we did take out Atu, and there were some American subs based up here, and having taken that, we have not been getting any more sub attacks that I've noticed, and we can turn on the map mode, naval map mode, to see, which will show brown for attacks against us, and so we're not seeing any of those. We're still seeing green, which are their attacks against them. Nothing's really happening out here in this Pacific. But we only have a few of these electric boats that can hide well enough from the Americans. So we're not putting more of the regular ones. These guys just can't sort of make it. But so we're doing some effective down there. And these guys aren't really finding much to sink. Maybe we should move down a little bit more down here. We're getting a little bit off of Australia here. We have been having some attacks, though I guess none recently. Out here, there are a bunch of forces we can spot. Oh, well, one sub we can see here now. There had been a bunch more naval forces, I think, sitting off in the Maldives. Maldives, don't know, but yeah. And we of course have subs out here. Oh, these guys have no orders, so let's give them some orders. Well, come over here. We want to no convoy raid. We want to do it passive. Passive doesn't affect how effective they are against the enemy. It's just once they get enough either damage or organization loss, they go back to port and get healed back up and then go back out. So that's something that I think you should do standard unless you really want to micromanage it and pull them out. Otherwise, they just stay out there and take losses and then get hammered and die. Okay, no problem, JP. And it just, for moderators, I just want to have you around, whoever you are, not just JP, but have you around for a while to see your temper online. You know, just that you're, you know, being a good, stable net citizen on the channel. That's all. And so, yeah, I'll get you added. And that, so yeah, no problem. And we have another division. Let's go add this, drop this over here. Well, yeah, we have, oh, we need HQs. Okay, so in our HQ extras, what we have of them are up here. Come here. Okay, yes, because we have a few more of these guys here. So, I probably should be sending, okay, R, and then let's add all these guys over here. Okay, we'll leave him. So, no, we need to shift more these guys back home from forward bases to bring up more forces. Well, there we are. Thought we, oh, this guy's supposed to get him. That's right. He's already in theater, so we're going to get him. We're going to rush him up to here. I guess rebase is the option that we have. Yeah, let's get these liners headed back to Japan. these will head to, well, we have some, oh, we have, okay, and we have a few shattered units that can go forward. We'll head these guys to here. Let's come over here, and everything but what we want to keep, the one garrison and the theater commander of that. Okay, get on board ship. At least come up to here. We can see about that. It's a relatively safe move. Oh, well, you seem at least stable online here. Oh, okay. Okay, these guys. Do we want to push against them? Maybe. Nope, we're gonna just hold the front there. That will need more than one division to push against effectively. Okay, you guys, collaborators, go over there and then come back to here. I think they're over there because, no, not any particular reason. Sometimes I have them in particulars. Well, you can support the attack. But just to make sure that they don't get a hold of a strategic resource. Yeah, fortunately, I've had a very good record, and Django very early on was, well, you probably don't need any moderators yet, and for the most part, it's like here, I mean, if I was playing Hearts of Iron 4 or some other games that are a bit more stable, I could easily click off to approve stuff because they're oversensitive on some words. Because yeah, you can use, so long as you can use the words like Nazi, so long as you're using it right. I don't tolerate attacks against other foreign, personal attacks against other foreign members. And I don't consider a joke like living on the wrong side of the world an attack. Again, because we live in this modern PC culture. Some people do, but But if you want to attack somebody's ideas, I'm a communist. Okay, yeah, we think communism is terrible. I do think communism is terrible, but that kind of thing. So mostly it's really not, warning or even using the ban hammer on anybody. But I went to Twitch school, which meaning TwitchCon, one year when it was in my home city here, just now 2 years ago, and sat through every lecture I could. There was multiple lectures at the same time, so I couldn't sit through everything, but everything that I could. And one thing they did stress very early on is to get some good moderators in early. So that's, even though these chats now, it's showing 14 people here, is not that many, and it's not a problem other than, like I say, having to approve things. It's going good. It just, if things get going, and also it's just like, hey, I'm cool. If you can't show up, no responsibilities to be here or be anywhere. Just when you are here, when you can be or want to be, not just can be, but when you want to be here, then you help out. And that way, if I have more than one, that means hopefully one or more of you will be here at any one time, is all. That's just sort of how I want to keep that. Yeah, I mean, if you start again saying, what I think are at least unacceptable for me on this channel, views about things, then yeah, that is a problem. Okay, so oil refining. Well, that will help out our oil refining stuff. you know, denying that there was a Holocaust or something like that. Because that's not real. You know, there was a Holocaust. That's just something I'm not going to tolerate. You have the freedom of speech, but this is my channel. You know, I have that say. You can go have your own channel somewhere and have your own views. But it just, you know, there's some stuff like that. And once in a while, we've had people come in just to be trolls and just say BS, you know, not even political, just BS stuff. Just to get reactions. But that's rare. I mean, so far it's been rare, and that's nice that it's rare. But it's happened, and it'll probably happen more in the future. Okay, we're gonna shift a little bit more over here because we dipped down below. Oh, now we're down at 100. Oh, well, actually, we should shift more over here. I thought we would have more than caught up, but I guess we've been having losses, so we're doing a big shift. Okay, oil refining advanced. Very good. Oh, and back over to production to manage this. Very good, IKB. So anybody who's a moderator, either here on YouTube or on Twitch, don't feel bad about not showing up. If you've got anything more fun to do, anything you've got to do, you go do it. Just go do it. Well, no, I don't know what you're talking about, the Rothschilds. I think Soros is a corrupt person, most assuredly. I think people use the term Rothschilds as sort of a boogeyman. I don't, you know, I know a little bit about some of the stuff from watching different movies and histories regarding the history of the Rothschilds. I'm only going to accept, if in any real fact, if somebody talks about a specific person doing a specific thing and not just throwing out the term. And there's corruption all over the place and everything, so that happens. Okay, we give them money for crude oil. Sure thing. Iraq, because we should have secure lines of communications. They are our friends, so we are happy to. Well, actually, you know, let's unhook this. Let's form another army. Let's get better skilled leader. Okay. We have somebody. We have units sitting over here. No, maybe over here. Yes, good, because we have some units that are getting ready to come. Yeah, okay, he's maxed out, but he's not very high ranking. There we go. Let's. Army and Army Group level are the most important levels to have high skilled commanders at. So we'll do that, and then we'll add where core leadership, in my opinion, is the least important. Well, yeah, I don't know specifically the documentary that you're referring to right offhand. I may have even watched it. I'm just saying I don't know. I'll say in some vague general sense, getting into discussing some of these topics are dangerous ground. Not wrong ground, but dangerous. Now, I'm trying to... The good way to answer this and be correct about it. And a lot of things are going through my head in the way people are viewing. The idea that there's just a few people, the Davos people or whatever in Switzerland or whatever, that run the world is a viewpoint that I just can't support. If you knew the incompetence of people that are in places, because I've worked for people that, well, I think the last one that I worked for actually just left office in Congress in the last election, lost his last election, but it had been many, many years since I'd worked for him. I've known people, you know, members of Congress, known people, you know, known and worked with daily, you know, in the same office daily, with people that were, you know, staffers for Congress and things like that. So if you looked at the actual level of incompetence of the people that are sort of managing and running the world, a lot of your, oh yeah, this group of people are the shadow governments or the shadow people, then you would realize that it's more just a lot of incompetence going on. So I discount a lot of the stuff, and a lot of documentaries, how do I put this, that are out on YouTube, I don't necessarily have good faith in their sources. I'll give you an example, and I know we're taking off topic from this, but I do think it's sort of an important issue. If you talk to a numerology guy, people who believe numbers somehow affect us, and I've heard some interviews with these people, and they'll go, 6 letters is his name, and his letters built up to this and all this stuff, and they start putting all these links together, all this stuff, and they create this sort of world of numbers, of letters and names, and letters equal certain values, and come up with this whole elaborate world view of this stuff that explains things in the world using numbers. That if you somehow bought into it, you could sort of see their logic, and that they sort of work all the, and again, I don't want to diminish anyone, or I'm not trying to attack anyone here, but and this is sort of why I'm using this, that they can sort of connect all these dots, as it were, and that's how they see, how they view the world. Okay. I really just can't share that view. And when you look at other documentaries that have points of view, a lot of times that they'll take real facts, I'm not saying made up stuff, but they'll take real facts and then weave together a viewpoint while ignoring big elephants in the room, other facts that are just as real, that just don't fit their narrative. So they try to get the stuff that they see and fit it together, and with you just looking at those sets of facts, it holds up. But it doesn't hold up if you start looking at other sets of facts. Doesn't mean that they're wrong, it just means that the way they've constructed it is not on solid ground. And so just because there's some of the stuff, and I've watched some of the different documentaries here and there on different things, and if you really start looking at it critically, and sometimes it's subjects that I know enough about, one of the areas I'll go into is sort of the occult history of the Third Reich. Some of these stuff that are appearing on like the History Channel, or appearing on American Heroes Channel that used to be the military channel, so these are on, you know, some conventional stuff, don't hold up to real scrutiny, and they're presented as historical documentaries that are presenting facts. And if you really sort of know what's going on, you see that it just doesn't hold up, and it doesn't make good history. So I guess that's sort of a long way of talking about some of these other things. Let me read it. Gamer, do you think we should be bringing India HQ into the theater, the one that in Japan might be? Well, I have this HQ here that I'm attaching more and more groups. So units that are shattering, some of them here, are now here. So, and I'm not bringing them up just yet because they're still sort of in shattered condition. So we are converting more and more stuff up to here. So yes, we are sort of doing that. Take a look at our OOB. I'm seeing a lot of red lines. Yeah, we're working on it bit by piece on the OOB. Marks and angles. I think Jewishness or lack of Jewishness is unimportant to any sort of discussion. I am a big supporter of Jews. I think Jews are great people. But I don't think that whether, because I don't think Marx is Jewish. Is Engels Jewish? I don't know. Don't care. It doesn't enter into my thinking one way or another. And so, yeah, communism is a really bad failed ideology by Marx and Engels, who saw economies and things as finite. You do realize that most of the world is starved to death by now. I mean, we're all dead by now, or so Malthus would have you think. The Malthusian trap. And so if you see the world in the terms of Malthus, English theorist and whatnot, you see the world as a finite thing, finite resources that can only support so many people. And that is sort of the trap that Marx is in. And so Marx sees that I have $100 and somebody else only has $10. Somehow the $10 person is deprived because I have more than he does. That does sort of kind of work, and this is where he's coming from, when you're talking about land, because there's only so much land in the world, and any sort of Dutch reclamation, and I say, you know, it's generally a finite thing, but the Dutch have reclaimed some land, especially when they're not trying to hide their country under the ocean. You know, yeah, you can reclaim and add some land, you know, to the oceans, to this thing, but that's minuscule in amount compared to the percent of land. So it's functionally a finite thing, but we can see population densities in places like Japan and other places that we can fit all of the people on the planet Earth if it was flat. This is this is very mountainous, but if this was flat, all the populations could all stand rather comfortably on the big island of Hawaii. Now, that doesn't mean that we'd have enough infrastructure to support mankind there. But we could probably build a multi-leveled city, you know, skyscrapers and whatnot, and comfortably fit all of the population of humanity currently onto Hawaii. All we would need to do is have a food source, and so we can infinitely functionally add more people, because we can do multi-layered farming if we have the energy. Oh, where could we get energy from? Does anybody notice any energy on this map? Huge amounts of energy. Oh, that'd be this. This is filled with hydrogen. Functionally endless amounts of hydrogen. And all it takes to separate oxygen from hydrogen and water is energy, and we have infinite amounts of energy. So we can we have energy, unlimited amounts of energy. Once we get fusion technology working, drinking salt water would help too. Okay, Doze. Hi, good to see you, Doze. Don't exactly know how that, but you do water separate. You can do purification things, so that we can build energy, and all you have to do is have light, and then you can do create skyscrapers that are just farms that can grow cows and can grow vegetables and wheat and whatnot. So we can hold an endless amount of people in our sort of terms on this planet. We are not even getting to the edge of support for life. The reason we have starvation in the world, and Venezuela had been the sort of peaceful economic success of Latin America until Hugo Chavez takes over and turns it socialist, where Colombia, now that they've defeated the communists, Colombia is moving into and defeated more or less the big drug cartels, so it's still something of a problem. Colombia is growing into the economic success of Latin America, and not on drug basis, but on just general economic things, is the culture of mankind, in that either they are primitives. A lot of the people here live as primitives. People don't like when I use those terms, but I will. Or they decide to pick economic government systems like socialism and destroy everything. So Marx saw economies as if we are all squabbling over our share of the gold that exists on the planet. Well, economies are bigger than the amount of gold. So if America has all the gold on the planet, it doesn't mean that everyone else is poor. Now, if you need gold in like computers and things like that, yeah, it would be denying them their metal as a industrial or whatever resource, not just as a money resource. But if we're just talking about money, if America gets all of the gold in the world, everybody else can be rich too without any gold. So they were still working on sort of the old concept of economies, the sort of pre-capitalist, because there's always been markets, but there's not always been capitalism. There's a difference. Markets and capitalism are two different things. Capitalism is sort of the idea of free markets, various things, but capitalism is defined by Adam Smith and successor economic theorists, Scottish guy, we'll say, 18th century. So capitalism is, as an idea, is only starting, and it's starting in a non-capitalist world. Britain and the rest of the European stuff are very much in the mercantilist world. Mercantilism is different, and then we can also look at other economies and try to figure out how we want to categorize them. But so we can look at that. So communism looks at stuff like this and tries to develop it, and that really has nothing to do whether somebody is Jewish or not. There's just no relation to me on that. The reason why the tendency for Jews in Europe particularly, but other places too, to be in banking, to be educated, and to be things like shopkeepers is because they were banned for many, many generations, including banned as in kicked out entirely like in Spain, but banned from owning land. All primary sources of wealth in Europe were ownership of land and things tied to the ownership of land. Jews were banned from owning land. Often in places in Germany, they were in a ghetto that they had to every night return to their specific part of their burg, their city, to live in a ghetto. So they could not own other means of wealth, like land, and they were banned from holding positions. Like in Britain, you could only be or claim you had to claim to be a member of the Church of England to hold a government post. There was not at the time of the American Revolution. There was not religious freedom in Britain, and there's probably less religious freedom now. You have to be Muslim in Britain now. So we're learning. Israel is a great desalinization. Oh yes, Israel is doing great at that. They are working at that. Desalinization. You may socialism destroyed, but you have an entire socialist continent on the other side of the ocean. Where? You mean the People's Republic of China? They don't practice socialism. Yeah, they claim to be communist, but they don't practice socialism. Or were you talking about Europe? Europe is mostly a capitalist economy with big social welfare program. See, like, there are socialist parties in Sweden, but Sweden has never been a socialist state. They are a capitalist economy with big social welfare programs. That's a difference to socialism. Socialism is like when Britain nationalizes the car industry and the government takes it over. That's socialism. Social welfare is having private hospitals with government run insurance. There's a difference between social welfare programs and socialism, and most people don't see the difference there. Jews were kicked out of countries, but not out of Protestant countries, only out of... There's never been a Protestant pogrom. All the pogroms were done by Catholics, or possibly Muslims and other people. Oh, you meant Europe. Okay. Yeah, well, Europe, for the most part, outside of, the Warsaw Pact, has always been capitalist economies with social welfare programs. Sweden, Norway, Denmark have never had socialism of a government ownership of the means of production and government ownership of the land for growing of food. They have always had private ownership of land, of companies, of businesses that are highly taxed, fairly heavily regulated with social welfare programs. That is not socialism. Hugo Chavez nationalizes the oil companies, nationalizes some of the other major industries so that they are now government owned and government run. Not just like, oh, there's a regulation for health and safety, or, oh, we're going to set the maximum gasoline price at the pump, or we're going to, set rules and regulation. They're actually, it's a government paid worker telling the workers what to do today. That's socialism. That's what you have in Venezuela. In Western Europe, to the best of my knowledge, in Britain, the Labour Party did nationalize the automobile industry and a few other things at times. Margaret Thatcher denationalizes it, and it's going much better than it was under the Labour government before. So that there are fleeting attempts, like in Britain, to have socialism in... I may be wrong, but communism is nationalizing, socialism is... No, you're absolutely wrong. Karl Marx and Frederick Engels are promoting socialism. Okay? That is socialism. That is, and we often call it communism as the most extreme element. There are degrees, because you can look at, really before Marx and Engels' works takes off, you can look at the first social security system for aged people that of any scale that I know of is put into place under the Kaiser and under Bismarck when they're forming Germany. So social welfare programs are very different than the government owning, not just regulating, but the government owning the means of production. So it's not like, oh, you can't own a private house necessarily under socialism. And you see, this is also the other thing is with communism, everything is owned by the state. Where under socialism, you might be able to privately actually own a house. You know, your own house, maybe a beachfront house or maybe an apartment in the poor side of town, but you can actually own it under socialism. But the means of production, you know, the automobile factories, the farms, the railway companies, all of those means of producing things on any sort of scale. So you may be able to have a lemonade stand or a news print stand, or maybe your own little bakery on your own, private ownership under socialism. Maybe. See, and there's degrees to everything. But you maybe will have a private little thing, but to have it like a citywide bakery, like to be the main bread supplier for Berlin under socialism, is going to be government-owned enterprise. But maybe the actual shop that sells it on the corner, you get a bread delivery every day and you sort of distribute it, that under socialism may be privately owned. Maybe, depending on what it is. Where communism, the whole thing will be government-owned. Everybody will be an employee of the state. It's sort of to a degree. And this is where, particularly in America, and particularly in modern political discourse, both on the right and left, they don't understand that people like Ocasio-Cortez is pushing socialism, in which it's not just government regulated, but government owned. And that's what they're pushing. And they may not be pushing it to the degree that every corner shop, for whatever it may be, is going to be government owned. It's going to be government regulated, that's for sure. But they may not be pushing that. And they're going beyond just the idea that there's going to be, now is government healthcare, is government going to own the hospital or just own the insurance that pays for the surgery? Is that private ownership hospital or is that a government-owned hospital? If it's a government-owned hospital, it's socialism, because that in which we have government-owned hospitals in Britain. So that's an element of the economy that is socialized in Britain, though there are also private hospitals in Britain too. People don't realize that. That's where all the elites and celebrities go to, is privately owned hospitals. But are most, and you have to pay cash. There is no, well, we can talk about some of the details in Britain, but there are privately owned hospitals that aren't on the government system. They're quietly done, but they exist. But does the government own the hospital, or does the government run a Medicare or Medicaid system, a social welfare system that pays a private entity to do this service? That is where you get the difference. And so people don't necessarily understand. So they think this sort of socialism is just government regulation, just government taking care of the needy through monetary things. Let me read. Big difference between the terms is still used, but change in meaning. We have straight up Communist Party, but even they are against the EU. They don't want to abolish private property. Parties like the Social Democrats, which in your terms aren't socialist. Okay, yes. Don't know exactly where you're from. But if you look, okay, political parties and their labels are often mislabeled and whatever. Like the Japanese Liberal Party is more of its conservative party. It's not conservative. It's sort of liberal as in the classical liberal sense. It's not a leftist party. And what the current political positions of parties change over time. I'm talking about the theories of socialism founded by Marx and Engels, and then later, of course, you have Leninist Marxism, which is Leninism on top of it. You have Maoism, which is, on top of that. And you have other sort of, I'm looking at the basic ideologies. And so, Portugal, good. I like to know who I'm talking to. I mean, you don't need to give me your address, but just the idea of, hey, talking to somebody in Portugal. Okay, and I'm sure you know Portugal much better than I know Portugal. And true communism, not necessarily the political party of Portugal, communists, but true communism believes in the withering away of states. Well, I'm gonna keep talking about this, but we're gonna end this episode here. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and we will be making more regular episodes without so much talking in the near future.